What is going on, everyone? Today we are going to be ranking every single Star Wars character of all time, or at least the most important ones. This isn't literally every character, but it's all of the ones that I would say personally matter in some way, shape, or form. Most of these are characters that have had some sort of role to play in the story, whether it's throughout the films or the TV shows. There is a ton here. Now, I personally did not make this tier list, but I saw it and I was like, okay, this looks solid for this video because there's a lot of characters. It even includes characters from Andor Season 2. It's quite caught up with the current times. There's only one or two projects in here that I haven't seen or played because they do include the Star Wars Jedi Survivor games, and I have not played those yet. I've played like one or two missions of the first game, but I haven't gotten far enough into it. So any characters from that game, I just simply cannot include on my ranking. But for the most part, we're going to be able to talk about a lot of these characters, and it's going to be really interesting to see where we place them. If the character appears in live action and animation, it's still the same character at the end of the day, so I'm not ranking those versions separately. This person who made the tier list decided to include some of the characters as their live action versions. Like, for example, Ahsoka here, it's showing her as her live action version, but it's the same as the animated version. It's the same character. When we're talking about her, it's going to be about any version. I'm also ranking these on how interesting the characters are, how well written they are, how much I enjoy watching them. It is not based on whether or not they are a good or bad person. I feel like I always got to say that because people are like, why did you put this character so low? They're such a sweet person, but I don't care if they're sweet or nice or whatever. I'm ranking them on how good they are as characters, how interesting they are. So let's start off with the most iconic character in Star Wars, Darth Vader. Now, I'm actually not sure if this tier list includes Anakin as a separate character. I don't see Anakin, therefore I guess this is just included as one character, which honestly, I've debated over the years if you should count Darth Vader as a separate character because he is so different in how he's handled compared to Anakin. But yes, it is still the same person at the end of the day. So when I am ranking this character, it's both versions. Obviously, I mean, with how iconic he is, of course he's going to be there, but seeing his fall to the dark side is definitely one of the most interesting parts of this universe. And obviously the fact that he's like meant to be this chosen one, everyone's so confused about it. How did he fall to the dark side? How was he the one who did all this and betrayed the Jedi? And then later on in Return of the Jedi, you get to see him actually change sides and help out Luke in his final moments. And it's a pretty solid arc for that character. And it is interesting watching Star Wars from A New Hope first, and then, you know, getting to see his redemption and then going back to originally see how he fell to the dark side in the first place. So of course he's awesome for that. James Earl Jones does an incredible job with the voice of Darth Vader, and of course Hayden Christensen did a great job with Anakin, and he still has been playing Anakin even more recently. They brought him back for the Obi-Wan show. They brought him back for Ahsoka. I would not be surprised if we see him again in the future, but he is great in the role. I know people have criticized him in the prequels and stuff, and look, there's definitely some moments where it's like, okay, you probably could have had a better take than that. I honestly think it was mostly the dialogue that caused that. I don't really think it was his acting. I think it was just some of the dialogue. Nobody can make that sound good, to be honest. But I think this character is easily one of my favorites in not even Star Wars, in fiction in general. He's also got such a cool design as well. Like, Darth Vader is just so menacing in every single way. So easily he's going to get S tier. There is no doubt about that. I mean, one of my favorite scenes from him has to be the Rogue One hallway scene. That scene is just everything I love about this character thrown into one. And when it comes to Anakin, I would say I enjoyed his relationship with Padme. We'll obviously talk about her later. A lot of people didn't like that side of the story whatsoever, but I actually thought it was, you know, a pretty interesting part of the story. I just think the dialogue could have been better. I think that was the one thing that they were kind of missing out on. Next up, we have Leia. So of course, Leia is one of Anakin's children, and she's obviously gonna get S tier as well. There's gonna be a lot of characters in S tier. That's just the way it is, but she is very iconic as well, and a great character in the original trilogy. Carrie Fisher also returned in the role for the sequel trilogy. She wasn't in a lot of it, to be honest. Like, she definitely had her biggest role to play in The Last Jedi, but unfortunately in The Force Awakens she was barely in it, and of course she did pass away, so she didn't really have much to do in The Rise of Skywalker. But I actually really like how they closed out her character. I thought it was actually well done, even given the fact that a lot of things in sequel trilogy just wasn't going well. I think the way they handled her character was actually pretty good, and her rising as this leader as a part of the rebellion, especially after what happened to her father on Alderaan, you know, right in front of her it happened. Like, that was just such an insane moment, and then she just rose in power in terms of, you know, being a general eventually. And then she also plays a big role in the Resistance as well when it comes to the sequel trilogy. Like, all that stuff was just really, really good. And of course, like I said, Carrie Fisher did a great job with it. So easily S tier, no doubt about it. Luke Skywalker, I mean, come on, like we can't not give these characters S tier. Of course, he's gonna get S tier as well. I hate the fact, whoever made this tier list, why would you use this version of Luke Skywalker? That's not even Mark Hamill. No, but you know, this was, of course, was his appearance in the Book of Boba Fett. And I've seen a lot of critiques about this recently when it comes to returning Luke Skywalker in The Mandalorian Season 2 as well as in the Book of Boba Fett. And I think he looked a lot better in the Book of Boba Fett. I know they did that whole CGI deepfake thing, but he actually didn't look that bad in the Book of Boba Fett. Like, it actually looked decent. It just looked really bad in The Mandalorian. Doesn't change the fact that I think it was really cool that they brought him back. It fit the scene a lot because obviously they were bringing Grogu to a Jedi, or trying to find a Jedi for Grogu. And it makes sense that Luke would get them because Luke is the one who goes on to teach the Jedi later on anyways, so, or a bunch of young Jedi, so it makes sense that he would be the one to look after Grogu. Now, of course, they kind of just did that whole thing where they just forgot about it and decided, oh, you know what, Mandalorian's gonna get Grogu back in Book of Boba Fett. It was a really weird story that they did there, but obviously that's not Luke's main appearance. His main appearances is, of course, in the original trilogy and, of course, in The Last Jedi, which it was weird that he was barely in The Force Awakens, but I actually kind of like that they did that because it allowed that movie to focus more on the new characters as well as Han and Leia. And then The Last Jedi was like all about Luke. And I didn't love how they wrapped it up. I will say I've had my issues with The Last Jedi over the years, and a lot of that had to do with how they handled Luke's character at the end there. But it does not change how great he is. He is obviously like the definitive version of the hero's journey, how he started in A New Hope up into Return of the Jedi. It was just such a cool progression to see, just seeing him slowly becoming a Jedi, especially due to the fact that there was not a lot of Jedi left. Like, there was not many people to be there to help him. The only people there to help him was, of course, Ben Kenobi at first, and then once you got into Empire Strikes Back, it was Yoda, and that was it. And Yoda training him is definitely one of my favorite parts of the Star Wars universe. Like, every scene on Dagobah in Empire Strikes Back, probably some of my favorite Star Wars content, not even kidding. So love Luke Skywalker. Mark Hamill did a great job, and this is a character I'm not really sure if we'll ever see him again. I think we probably will in animation. I do think they'll probably do an animated project down the road, maybe tying in what Luke does like after the Mandoverse stuff and before the sequel trilogy, kind of like showing what happens there. But they'll probably do that in animated animation. I think that's probably for the best at this point. I don't mind them recasting and just finding someone else, but I think doing it animated is totally fine as well, because a lot of Star Wars animation is great. So I think that could be cool. But Luke Skywalker, awesome, definitely deserves S tier. One of the best characters, one of the most interesting characters. And of course, Han Solo. I mean, this is just starting to get ridiculous here. Everyone's an S tier. I mean, yeah, of course, he's gonna get S tier. He's awesome. Harrison Ford is incredible. And this might be a hot take, but I think one of his best appearances as Han Solo was actually in The Force Awakens. Like, genuinely. I mean, The Force Awakens is a movie that I defend a lot. I know a lot of people hate it, but I think he is incredible in that movie. I love the way they handle his character. I think having him be split off from Leia, I mean, it was obviously sad to see, but it made sense for their story. And I just really liked his interactions with Rey and Finn. And I mean, obviously, Chewie's by his side pretty much 24/7. And, his relationship with Leia is definitely one of the best and most interesting parts of the original trilogy. He's just the smuggler dude who's just, he's not the typical guy to be a part of this whole Rebel Alliance group, but he joins it anyways because he just happens to come across these characters and he happens to join in the fight. And I like characters like that weren't really meant to be in a specific place, but then they kind of get thrown into it, kind of like Andor, which we'll talk about him later. But he wasn't meant to be there, but eventually it just kind of happened. And he ends up kind of going along with the cause and caring for it. And so love watching this character. He's obviously one of the funniest characters. Chewie is next. I mean, look, you gotta put him an S, right? You got it. Like, you can't not put him an S. This S tier is getting kind of crazy right now. I mean, they start off with some of the best characters right off the bat. But yes, I mean, Chewie, he's a character who doesn't speak at all. He just makes noises. Yet you have so much care for him because of his bond with these characters, and also just, I mean, not even the facial expressions, but it's more sort of like the movements that he does. You know what I mean? Like, you're able to care for him just from that alone. I forgot to mention the Solo movie as well. I know obviously Harrison Ford was not playing Han Solo in that movie, but that still counts as Han Solo, even if it's a different actor playing him. I think the movie was decent. It didn't really add too much to the Han Solo character for me personally, but regardless, it's just another appearance. And of course, Chewbacca was also in that. And I think one of my favorite moments, honestly, again, this is a hot take, but I think some of the best Chewie moments are in the sequel trilogy. I think there's a lot of great moments of him in The Force Awakens, in The Last Jedi, and I mean, even in The Rise of Skywalker. I mean, you guys know that one moment when they do that little fake out death in The Rise of Skywalker. Oh my goodness. I was literally like, are you kidding me? And then they reveal he's alive. I was like, holy shit. Such a crazy moment. But obviously he also has amazing moments in the original trilogy. So, you know, you gotta love him. One of the most iconic scenes with him is when he has C-3PO like kind of stitched to his back with a little like net thing, because he's kind of like holding his parts together because C-3PO fell apart. That was funny. And yeah, just love these characters. All these characters deserve S tier for sure. They are what make that original trilogy so iconic. And Lando is next. Okay, so unfortunately Lando is going to be breaking this S tier, you know, this streak of S tier characters, but Lando still is really good. Here's the thing. They didn't show enough of him. I feel like he didn't play as big of a role as I feel like this character should have. He is in a tiny bit of some of the other things. I mean, he's obviously in Solo, played by Donald Glover. And he was in, I think, 1 or 2 animated projects. I believe he was in an episode of Rebels, and it wasn't too crazy, but he was in. I mean, I guess Leia was also in an episode of Rebels. I'm going to put him in B, though. It might be kind of crazy to put him there, but I'm going to put him in B. He is great. I love him, but I don't think he is on the same level as some of these other characters, just by the very nature of screen time, just showing him less, doing less with the character. But he still is great, and I definitely love what they did with him in Empire Strikes Back more than anything. Then we got R2-D2 and C-3PO. Okay, so these are characters. I think they deserve to be counted as characters. But look, I don't know. It's hard to say, because kind of like Chewie, where a lot of it is the more like expressions they make, and with, I mean, R2 doesn't make any facial expressions obviously, but it's more so just like the movements and stuff. They are iconic and you love to watch them on screen, but it's hard to say that like they're necessarily that interesting from a writing standpoint. Honestly, looking back on it, even Chewie, I think I maybe even drop to A tier just because of that. Like, I feel bad doing it, but I just realized in my head, I'm like, you know, maybe he doesn't deserve A tier. But R2-D2, I'm gonna put right next to C-3PO, probably B tier. Like, they're iconic. They're fun to watch. I think C-3PO is a bit better. He's a little funnier because he obviously talks, so it adds a lot. Actually, you know what? C-3PO I think is even enough to go in A tier. The talking does add a lot, I would say, but it's tough ranking. Like, these type of characters are so hard to rank, but I think these are probably the best rankings I'm going to give for them. I don't know. It's really hard. Like I said, there's not really much to talk about with them. They're just fun. They're fun to watch. They're an integral part of the franchise's charm. But like writing wise, is there really much to talk about? Not really. Next up, we have Emperor Palpatine, or whatever you want to call him. You can call him the Chancellor. You can call him Sheev, whatever you want to call him. Yeah, he's S tier as well, of course. I feel like as a whole, this character definitely deserves to be called one of the best characters in the franchise. One of the best villains, obviously. And I will say, I think there's a lot about him that they don't really go like too in depth sometimes with his character. A lot of times it is just like a stereotypical evil character who's just like, I need to rule the world and the galaxy. And, you know, a lot of times it's like that. But I do think when you learn more about the Empire, especially in stuff like, you know, the Andor series, like you do get to kind of learn more of what this guy's leadership was like. And obviously it was a horrible, horrible leadership. And it's definitely a character you see a lot of in the prequel trilogy. You only see him a little bit in the originals, mainly in Return of the Jedi. And I mean, of course, Ian McDiarmid did a fantastic job with the character. They also have him a little bit in some of the animated shows, not too much though, but he wasn't a lot of the Clone Wars, I would say, as you know, before he is fully unveiled as Palpatine. Well, I guess to be honest, you do have quite a bit of him in that one episode, which, I mean, oh my god, when he duels, which we'll talk about those characters later, when he duels Maul and Savage Opress in season 5 of the Clone Wars, oh my god, that was incredible. But regardless, yes, he definitely deserves S tier. Definitely, I would say, as iconic as characters like Darth Vader and Luke, for sure. Now we got Tarkin, and I would say Tarkin's a character that, I mean, I like that they had him in Rogue One. It was just, you know, the whole CGI thing was kind of like, come on, like we could have recast it. It wouldn't have been impossible to do that, right? But I do still like what they were doing him writing wise in that movie, and obviously he's, you know, I would say a pretty integral part of the original trilogy, as well as in some of the animated shows. They even show him pre-Empire in the Clone Wars, which I thought was a really interesting arc. And I would say without that stuff in the animated shows, I don't think he would actually be that high in my ranking. But because of that stuff, I actually think he's gonna get A tier. Like, they genuinely made him a more interesting character because of that. So I will say that for a lot of characters. It's like, if it was just the movies, they would be kind of low, but the animated shows actually put him up quite a bit. And is this guy's name like Wedge or something? Honestly, not a very memorable character. I know he obviously he has roles to play in the original trilogy, but like not enough to the point where like no one ever talked. Like if you say these names of these characters to any person, even if they aren't like a huge fan of Star Wars, they'll probably know who you're talking about. Wedge is not one that I think even Star Wars fans don't know who you're talking about. So I'm gonna give him D. It sounds sacrilege to do that, but I'm surprised he's even on this tier list, to be honest. But whatever. He's not a bad character. He's not badly written. I just don't care that much, to be honest. All right, we are now on to some of the characters from the prequels as well as the Clone Wars down here. So we have Obi-Wan Kenobi, which of course he was in the original trilogy with Ben Kenobi, but I think his obvious main appearances come from the prequel trilogy. And of course, we also have the Obi-Wan series and the Clone Wars. Obviously, he's getting S tier as well. Like I said, this S tier is going to be quite stacked, but honestly, I think I'd put him right here. I really do love his role in the story, being the one who's like basically closest with Anakin and any of the Jedi, and he gets to see it happen himself. He gets to see him fall to the dark side himself. I think that's a cool dynamic that they gave this character. And the Obi-Wan series, although I didn't love it, it did expand on it a bit, so I did appreciate that. And I honestly think him in the Clone Wars, like I said, for a lot of characters, he's even better in the Clone Wars. I think there's a lot of cool stuff to do, especially with Satine, who we'll talk about later. But he's really fun to watch, and he's a character that's definitely quite stoic in most of his scenes. But I do think once you get to Revenge of the Sith, and then like I said in the Obi-Wan series, they do open that up a bit. And I think the more emotion given to Jedi characters is always very interesting, because obviously they're not supposed to have a lot of emotion. They're supposed to kind of reserve that. But once there's moments that bring it out of them, it's quite impactful. And even the Phantom Menace, I think he's definitely the best part of the Phantom Menace, especially his duel against Darth Maul, especially after Qui-Gon got killed. So he definitely deserves S tier for sure. And speaking of Qui-Gon, let's just do him right away. As much as I want to give him S tier, unfortunately I'm going to give him A tier. I don't think, he's only in one film. He's one film, and he's in a couple episodes of the Tales of the Jedi TV series, which was actually really, really cool. But he's really awesome. I guess technically also he has a little cameo appearance in the Obi-Wan series, but that doesn't really count. Regardless, Liam Neeson, so awesome as this character. And even though I don't really like the Phantom Menace that much as a film, I don't think it's that great. It's definitely one of the weaker Star Wars movies. I do really like Qui-Gon in that movie. I think he is a great presence there. And I do think those couple episodes in Tales of Jedi, although it wasn't a lot of extra story, it is pretty cool getting to see his past relation with Count Dooku. And now we have Padme, who I honestly think she had a lot of cool stuff in the Clone Wars. Again, obviously Natalie Portman was awesome as this character in the prequels, but they built a lot upon her in the Clone Wars series. One of the reasons I love the Clone Wars is because it's like, okay, the prequels, they have their issues, there's some messy moments, but the Clone Wars fills a lot of the gaps in, to the point where you can kind of understand where the story's leading a little bit better, and it kind of makes it retrospectively a much better couple movies. But Padme, I think, is one that I would like to give high. I don't know if I'm going to say S tier, though. I think she's probably deserving of high A tier, just because, I don't think she's necessarily as interesting as some of those characters in S. She's close, not quite there, though. But she is still really, really cool. And I mean, I think she's probably at her best in, honestly, Attack of the Clones, oddly enough. Even though the dialogue's iffy, I do like a lot what they do with her in Attack of the Clones, especially her involvement in that, Geonosis sequence in the train, like the giant, what do you call it? The like gladiator arena that they have those characters in. So that was pretty fun. And of course, she doesn't do nearly as much in Revenge of the Sith, but obviously she has a lot of emotional scenes that are probably some of the most impactful scenes of the movie. So definitely deserves A tier. And we got Yoda. I mean, come on, like this is a no-brainer. He's also going in S tier, probably even above Han Solo. He's great. He's definitely one of the most unique characters, obviously being like 900 years old or whatever. He's really, really old. And so he's had a lot of experience. He's very wise. And his conversations, I mean, obviously he talks in a very unique way, but what I love about him more than anything is that he's this very like serious, stoic character in the prequels, and of course in the Clone Wars series. And then you get to the originals, and he's just like this just grumpy old dude out in the wilderness on Dagobah. And I do like that he pretends to be like really foolish and just annoying with Luke, because he was like testing Luke's patience. So I really like his how he basically was Luke's master for a bit there in an unofficial way, but in a sense. So yeah, I really love Yoda. Obviously, he's definitely deserving of S tier, definitely one of the most iconic characters in Star Wars, probably top 3 most iconic, I would say, next to Darth Vader, and then maybe like Palpatine or Luke. He'd probably top 3 or 4 most iconic characters for sure. Or maybe Chewbacca would be up there. I don't know. You would regard this definitely iconic. We got Mace Windu now. This is a character I want so much more of. And honestly, the only like negative I could say for the Clone Wars series is I think they should have had more Mace Windu, because he was in it, of course. He was, but not nearly enough. I felt like his character was always kind of sidelined, and any plot lines they did give him in that show were usually not that good. Like, they gave him the weakest plot lines. Just every time he was like the center of a plot line, they always managed to make it just like the least interesting part of that season. I was like, why? Like, give him something more interesting to do. I do like him a lot in Revenge of the Sith, though. He is a pretty forefront presence there. He's obviously like, he's onto Palpatine. He's, you know, talking to Anakin like, you gotta like spy on him for me. And then eventually, of course, it leads to his death. But I do think he's a character that deserves more. If they're ever going to do more Tales of the Jedi seasons, I definitely think they should give him some more storylines, some more things to do. But I still think I'm probably going to give him either low A or high B. I might go... I mean, he's the fact that he has a purple lightsaber, I know that's like not important to the character whatsoever, but it's fucking cool. It really is. So I think he might deserve... I'm gonna say B tier. It's Samuel Jackson. Come on, it's Samuel Jackson. He deserves higher, but I feel like I'll go A. I will go A. I think he deserves it. You know, we'll see when we get later on through the other characters. It might change, or you know, my opinions might change a bit here. But for now, A tier seems good. And we have Bail Organa. So Bail Organa, I actually think, and this is no shame to the original actor that played him, because he's fantastic, but I think Andor season 2 probably gave Bail Organa his best moments ever. So even though he wasn't in that much of it, and obviously it was a new actor playing him there, but I still think I'm probably just going to give him B tier. He's awesome, he is great, but he's also not necessarily not on the same level as those S and A tier characters for sure. But I do like his role to play in the story. Obviously, he's Leia's adopted, or not, well, you know, he adopts Leia at a certain point. Well, not a certain point, like right after she's born, basically, you know, because Obi-Wan believes that she'll be safe with him on Alderaan. And I really enjoy what they give him to do, they give him a couple different things to do in the Rebels series. Obviously, he's, you know, a big part of Andor season 2, and he's in a couple of the movies, I would say, not you know, a bunch of them, but he's in enough of them to the point where I like what they gave him, you know. So he's also in Rogue One. Yeah, he's in enough of this franchise that he definitely deserves B tier. And honestly, the fact that he's a character who doesn't really often like get into fights, I mean, there's a couple of action scenes with him, I believe, but not a lot, not enough to like, you know, make him like a character who's action centric. But for being that type of a character, he still is fantastic. So definitely would love to see more of him in the future. Not really sure where they would have him, you know, what parts of the series they would have him be a part of next, but could definitely see there being some stuff that he could have a role to play in. Count Dooku, oh man, dude, easily one of the coolest villains. And I'll say, I think they gave him so much more depth. Again, like, it's so many characters, like I said before, so much more depth in the Clone Wars series that I have to give him S tier. The Clone Wars series did numbers for this man. I mean, obviously he's iconic in the movies. He's a pretty huge part of Attack of the Clones, has a great duel at the end of that film, and of course in the beginning of Revenge of the Sith. But oh my goodness, man, the Clone Wars, and then also the Tales of the Jedi series, giving him that little storyline with Qui-Gon, as we talked about before. That was fantastic stuff, and I like that he used to be part of the light side, and he kind of switched over. And that whole thing that they did in Attack of the Clones, the whole mystery behind his character, and then the reveal of him and his plans, is so well handled. Christopher Lee is obviously incredible as this character, and I do hope to see more of Count Dooku in the future. I'm sure, you know, obviously it would be like animated stuff, or maybe if they want to one day do some sort of, I don't know, like prequel of the prequels, other than the Tales of the Jedi storyline that they did, they could have like younger Count Dooku as a part of that. I don't know. I mean, I don't need to see more of him personally. I think they did a lot with him already in the Clone Wars, but it's definitely a phenomenal villain. one of the best of all time. General Grievous, this is one, again, Clone Wars definitely helped him quite a bit, gave him a lot more to do. He's not a huge part of Revenge of the Sith. You don't really know much about him at that point. You just know he's this droid sort of thing that's you know, kind of used by Count Dooku to kind of help him out with things and act as a general for the Separatists. He's cool, but he's not really like a character that I'm necessarily like, wow, like he's so interestingly written. I definitely think there could be more to this character that it would be cool to see, maybe like a origin story of some sort. I believe there's a novel about that, if I'm not mistaken, but I've never read it, so I don't really know much about his origin. I just know what they showed us in the Clone Wars series, but he is cool. So from that alone, I do think he deserves B tier, but I probably wouldn't give him higher than that. I don't think he's like one of the most, you know, he's not one of the best villains, obviously, in this series. I'm probably going to say, I want to put Bail above Lando, actually. I'm probably going to put him right here next to R2. Seems okay. You know, like I said, he was definitely a fun character to watch in the Clone Wars, but writing-wise, I don't necessarily think I have that much to say about his character. Jango Fett, to be honest, I think, we'll talk about Boba Fett later. I think Boba Fett's better, but Jango Fett is still pretty cool. Obviously, I like the storyline with him involving the clones, the fact that they basically used his, you know, himself to clone what the clones are going to look like. And so for that, I'll go give him B tier, you know, maybe like right here above Grievous or above R2, maybe, you know, I don't know. He's cool. I just think Boba Fett does the character better, in my opinion. So I'll just leave it at that. But Jango Fett still is pretty cool. Jar Jar Binks. I mean, what are you gonna say about Jar Jar Binks? You know, I think people hate on him a lot for being, you know, annoying, but I don't really think he's that bad. I really don't. I think he's funny. He adds a charm to that first for the Phantom Menace. So I'm gonna give him B tier. I don't think he's a great character by any means, hence why I'm not putting him higher, but I don't think he's this like awful, terrible person that needs to get out of the movies. Like people like hated a lot on Jar Jar Binks. So like, oh my God, he needs to go. Like, what's wrong? I don't see the problem. He's just a funny little dude. Oh, we got one of the dudes from the Trade Federation. I think this is Gunray. To be honest, I don't really care too much for Gunray. I think there's some funny moments with him. I just don't really care. I think that whole Trade Federation part of the storyline could have been 20 times more interesting. I'm just gonna leave him there. Ahsoka, there we go. I kind of hate that they used her live action version for the photo here. I kind of wish they had the animated version because I do like her a lot more in the animated series, whether it's the Clone Wars or Rebels. She's phenomenal. She is, I'm gonna be honest, probably, ooh, should I put her? Yeah, I'm putting her even above Obi-Wan. I'm not even kidding. Easily one of my favorite characters in this. You know, I kind of even want to put her higher. Like, she might be my number one. I don't know. It's hard to say. I like Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka in the Ahsoka series. I just, whenever I watch her as Ahsoka, I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't feel like she's the same character, but at the same time, she does a great job with what she's doing. I just don't ever like feel. I'm not like this doesn't feel like the same person that I watched in those other shows. And that's not really her fault. Like I said, it's very hard to represent that. But regardless, I still loved what they did with the Ahsoka series. I do like her character. Didn't feel like they did enough with her character, though. That was one of my main complaints with the Ahsoka series. I felt like she didn't have some like big growth in that storyline, although they did a little something in episode 5, but it wasn't enough. I didn't feel like there was this major growth, and I hope season 2 was able to do that. But in the Clone Wars, oh my God, she's so good. She's definitely one of the best characters. She was obviously an original character to the Clone Wars series. They invented her there as Anakin's Padawan, and such great storylines, man. They really do so much with her. So much growth over the 7 seasons of that show, leading to probably my favorite like Star Wars content ever, which is the final 4 episodes of season 7 of the Clone Wars with the Siege of Mandalore. She has that amazing duel with Maul, and I love when she's talking to Maul, and you know, Maul's trying to convince her that, you know, Anakin's gonna fall the dark side. There's gonna be this terrible thing that's gonna happen, and she doesn't want to believe it. She's like, you know, completely denying it. A lot of characters were denying it, and she eventually gets into, you know, having to deal with Order 66, and she has to fight back, and she has that really deep connection with the clones that a lot of other characters don't have. You know, the way she does, it's just such a great connection. It's so great to watch. And then they bring her into Rebels, right? She's much older at that point, and she has that amazing episode with the season 2 finale where she fights Darth Vader. She, you know, sees him for the first time in forever, and she's like, shit, like this is who you are now. And And, dude, she like slices half of the mask, and there's, oh my god, it was such a great scene. So yeah, Ahsoka definitely S tier. There's no doubt about it. I even, fuck it, I'm making the argument she's better than Luke. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. It's the animated series that did it, man. It really is. If it was just the Ahsoka TV show, I probably wouldn't have her that high. I do, like I said, I like Rosario Dawson in the role. I don't know, it's not the same as her in the animated shows. But I'm hoping they do more stuff in season 2 that kind of blows me away and adds a lot to her character, because there definitely is room for that. And I guess we'll have to wait and see. I would like to see her interact with Din Djarin again with the Mandalorian. I mean, we had that one episode of Mando season 2. I thought that was great. I thought they had a good chemistry. So it'd be cool to see that again. And we have Rex. I mean, there's going to be a couple of clone characters we're going to be talking about, of course, but Rex is easily the best clone character. I'm going to honestly put him on maybe above Palpatine. Yeah, it seems good. Rex is fantastic. He's obviously the most recognizable of the clones, I would say. He's probably the most fleshed out. He has that, again, great episodes at the final parts of season 7 where he is, saved by Ahsoka, and he doesn't have to, well, originally that's not what happened. Originally he was about to shoot Ahsoka, of course, but she's able to take the chip out, basically save him. And there's so many emotional scenes there where he's like, oh my god, like, a bunch of clones are gonna die because of this, or even the fact that a bunch of Jedi are gonna die because of the clones, but not because of the clones, but because of the chips in the clones. That was, all done by Palpatine. But loved that shit, man. Love what they did with Rex. And then they give him stuff to do in Rebels as well, where he's one of the only clones left after all of that. So yeah, that was really cool. Definitely the best of the clone characters. There's some other clone characters I like as well, but he's definitely my favorite. And another amazing kid, dude. They're just giving us like amazing character after amazing character. I think there's going to be some ones that are going to be lower tier later on, but like for now it's just high tier after high tier. Darth Maul is probably my favorite villain other than Darth Vader in Star Wars, I think. Yeah, I'm probably going to put him, I might even put him above, I might even put him above Luke. I might even put him above Luke. And yeah, it's the animated show. There's really nothing in the movies that makes him that great. He's literally in the Phantom Menace and like a half a second of the Solo movie. So I don't think that's why I love this character. Obviously he has a great duel in the Phantom Menace, but a great duel, it's just that there's not much writing to his character, there's not much story to his character. But the Clone Wars brings him back to life, which I usually don't like characters getting like revived. I guess he just technically never died, but usually I don't like that. This way it works because they actually added a lot to his character and made his character so good. And I mean, Sam Witwer, I'm probably not saying his name right, but he's so good with the voice acting. And he obviously doesn't come into like late season 4, but when he does, he adds so much to the Clone Wars series, especially into season 5, the last half of season 5 with the Mandalore arc. Probably one of my favorite parts of the series, of course, also the end of season 7, all Darth Maul focused. And he's so good. He just so good. His motivations are so interesting, especially a big part of it is wanting revenge against Obi-Wan. But there's a lot of other parts to it as well. It's not just that. And then he eventually takes over Mandalore and he's like leading it. The way he, kills Satine was just like so messed up, but it was so well done. Like that scene was incredible. His duel against Pre Vizsla was incredible. His duel against, Palpatine, along with Savage Press, was incredible. Just so many amazing moments. Oh, and then of course you have him in Rebels as well. I forgot he was even a big part of Rebels. Only a couple episodes, but incredible stuff, especially that Twin Sons episode where they finally end the character. Such amazing stuff, man. Easily S tier. There's no doubt about it. And he's probably going to go down as one of my favorite villains in history, not even just Star Wars. Next, we have another villain from the Clone Wars, and this one was actually originally made in the Clone Wars. And that is, of course, Asajj Ventress. They have her picture here, a more recent one, because, of course, she is in the Tales of the Underworld series, and she's also in an episode of The Bad Batch. And yeah, she's pretty cool. I think her character got a lot better with some of her arcs later on in the story, like in season 3. And I mean, she wasn't in a lot of the Clone Wars after that point when, you know, eventually Palpatine wanted her dead. But I really did enjoy what they did with her after that point. It's just, again, she wasn't in like a ton of the story. She kind of had that little thing where she was training with Savage Press. She, of course, is a Night Sister, technically, from Dathomir. And I like that whole origin that she has, and eventually she returns to Dathomir, and really love that stuff that they gave her. So I'm going to give her A tier. I don't think she's necessarily deserving of S. I do think if they gave her a little bit more, maybe I would have put her a bit higher, but I feel like for what we did get, she was really, really cool. She's definitely one of the coolest villains. I'm gonna say probably right, like, Tarkin I'm gonna put a little bit lower actually, but probably above, yeah, probably high A tier actually. She's really cool. She's really, really fun to watch. And like I said, that storyline involving Palpatine basically just being done with her, it was actually pretty interesting. I just like the whole idea of her being like betrayed and then wanting revenge after that, like just really cool stuff. And next we have Cad Bane, a pretty cool bounty hunter character that they gave a lot to in the Clone Wars. And then of course we saw him return in the Book of Boba Fett. Unfortunately, didn't really like what they did with him in that show, but he's pretty cool otherwise. And they even just recently did that Tales of the Underworld show where they gave him a little bit of a story there. So I'm gonna say probably bottom of A tier. There's not a lot of bad Star Wars characters. I'm sure we'll get to them eventually, but so far I'm putting a lot of the characters really high. Next up we have Commander Cody. Definitely not as interesting as, honestly, I feel like Cody wasn't, he's definitely a big presence in this show, but I'm gonna say B tier. I feel like there's other clones who are a bit better. Speaking of clones that were a bit better, Fives. I actually really like what they do with him. He's obviously a really important part of the storyline, specifically in the beginning of season 6. So I'm going to say for him, A tier. Don't think I'm going to put much more higher than that, but definitely A tier deserving of that. He plays a big role in the whole Chip storyline of the clones. Satine, okay. I mean, Satine's really cool. I like what storyline they gave her, added a lot to Obi-Wan's character specifically. And honestly, I feel like I always wanted even more of her. I love the storyline they give her on Mandalore. I'm going to say probably like top of A, maybe. I think the Mandalore stuff is honestly some of my favorite stuff from the Clone Wars series. So more of her, the better. Like, she was really, really, really great to watch, but especially what they gave her, her connection with Obi-Wan. That was incredible. And her final episode, probably one of the best episodes of that show. So yeah, of course, she is deserving of A tier. Holdo, to be honest, he's a funny little goofy character, but he's not really like, he's kind of like Jar Jar Binks in that way. He's just kind of like a goofy little dude he's just there. I don't know. Like, I don't really think his character is that great. He's just there. Who the fuck is that? I'm gonna be honest. Maybe I'm going crazy. I do not recognize this guy. I don't know, man. Oh wait, yeah, no, okay, I know this guy. Yeah, he was in a little bit of he actually kind of was in, I don't want to say a decent amount of Andor, but he was in a couple scenes, and he did have a couple different roles to play. He was even apparently in A New Hope. I don't even fucking know that, to be honest. A couple episodes of Rebels, it looks like. I didn't even recognize him, so sorry, you're going to D tier. I'm sorry, you're not that recognizable compared to some other characters. Let's be honest. Next up, we have Mother Talzin, the leader of the Night Sisters, and I do like the Night Sisters in general. I think their storyline, especially how it connects to Asajj Ventress. I almost forgot her name, but I think as a character, I don't particularly think she's like that great on her own. It's more so just her connection to, you know, Asajj Ventress. It's more about her than anything. But I'm gonna put her bottom of B. I think I do like the episodes they have with the Night Sisters, so it's enough to put her up there. Savage Press, though, ooh, I want to put him up real high. I really, really enjoyed him, but I'm probably gonna put him below Qui-Gon. Maybe it's not as good as Darth Maul, obviously, but he was fucking awesome to watch, and obviously his duel against Palpatine is probably one of the best moments of the show. You know, specifically with Darth Maul, of course, but yeah, I think A tier is good for him. Definitely good. Pre Vizsla, ooh, like I said, the Mandalore stuff in this show is amazing. So genuinely, I'm gonna go A tier. Fuck it, dude. I love the Mandalorian stuff and the Mandalore stuff. It's so good. And to the point where I kind of like, I like the Mandalorian series, but I wish they would touch on that stuff even more than, I mean, they did in season 3 quite a bit, actually, I would say, but not enough to the point where it was like, I don't know, it didn't hit as hard as the Mandalore stuff in the Clone Wars series, at least for the most part. But yeah, Pre Vizsla's pretty cool. I'm honestly might even put him above Tarkin. Tarkin at the bottom. That looks good. Fucking Plo Koon. Yeah, okay. I don't know, man. I don't. What am I gonna say about him? I don't know. C tier maybe. He looks kind of cool. He looks cool. We'll give him C tier because he looks cool, I guess. Sure. This trooper's name is like Wolf, right? Am I wrong about that? I didn't feel like I liked him as much as some of the other clones, so I might just put him a little bit lower. But it hurts to put him lower, but don't really care about him as much as some of the other ones. Can't even remember this guy's name to the point where if I don't remember your name, I'm sorry. Like you just can't get that much credit. This was Lux, right? This was he had a little bit of a storyline in Clone Wars. I mean, kind of a connection with Ahsoka as well, which I actually enjoyed that stuff. I thought that was interesting. So I would like to have seen more of it, though. I feel like they didn't show enough of him, but for what they did show, I actually liked Lux's character a little bit. Another character, I don't remember his name. I do remember who he was, but again, I feel like I don't remember your name. I feel like I just doesn't feel right to rate you that high. Bossk is an iconic looking character, but that's about it. So he can go right here in C tier. Some bounty hunters that, again, I don't really like. There's not much to talk about with some of these characters because they're just not that significant in the story. All right, now we are on to Rebels. Of course, some of the characters we've already talked about are in Rebels, but these are characters that were originally made in Rebels. Starting off with Ezra Bridger. Ezra's pretty cool. Obviously, he showed up in the Ahsoka series for a little bit towards the end, and he was cool there, but I mean, he's obviously... I care more about him personally in the Rebels series, and I do like his journey quite a bit. He can be a little too much sometimes, but he gets better, I think, as the series goes along. I would say season 1, he was at his weakest point. Obviously, I mean, it's kind of the intention of it, and then he got better and better as it went along, but I'm gonna give him probably like low A tier, maybe. I think that looks good, and honestly, Kanan, I'm also gonna give him low A tier. Maybe just a little bit above. I think I prefer Kanan a little bit. Tarkin put below them as well, maybe 5s too. Definitely deserving of A tier though. I really enjoyed their characters. And this might be a hot take, but we'll get to Sabine in a second. But Hera is also going to go in A tier along with them. Like, I think the Rebels crew is all really good, and I honestly might put them all pretty close to each other. Like, it's going to be very minimal differences. Sabine though is probably my favorite out of all of the Rebels characters. I'm honestly going to put her probably even top of A. That might be a hot take, to be honest. I don't know if others agreed. I enjoyed her a lot in the Ahsoka series, actually. She was probably one of my favorite parts of that show. And yeah, I liked her like Mandalorian background that she has, of course. That was pretty cool. And the episode where she had the Darksaber was pretty cool as well. Like, there's definitely some cool moments with Sabine that are definitely some of my favorite parts of not even just Ahsoka series, but also Rebels in general. Next, we have Zeb. And Zeb, I would love to see more of, and I think we are going to see more of him. I wouldn't be surprised if he shows up in Ahsoka season 2. He was actually in Mandalorian season 3 for an episode, so he wasn't like a big part of it, but he was there. I'm going to probably give him he's probably the weakest character of the Rebels crew, but A tier sounds good. Chopper, look, I'm sorry, look, I don't think I could give Chopper that high. He's basically R2-D2, but for Rebels, the Rebels crew. He's cool. I like him, but I'm just going to give him C tier. I'm sorry. I know people are going to hate that, but it is what it is. Callus, I believe that was his name. He was a really cool character. He was originally Imperial and then turned into Rebel eventually. And I actually really like his story. I'm probably going to put him in A tier. Quite underrated character in that series. And then Grand Admiral Thrawn. Loved him in Ahsoka. Loved him in Rebels. Might actually give him S tier. He has some of the best dialogue in Rebels. Fuck, man. Do I want to give him S tier though? That's like really high. That's a real, yeah, we're doing it. He's probably one of the best parts of that show. When he was introduced, the show got so much better. So I think he's deserving of S tier. And I'm excited to see more of this character in the future. Hopefully, he's really cool. So not much to say there other than that. I do like that he is a character that continues on as a villain even after the Empire is defeated. So yeah, definitely deserves a lot of credits. Then we have a lot of the Inquisitors and some other Imperial characters. I'm honestly going to put them all kind of near each other. I don't think there's going to be like huge gaps. I would say B tier. Like, again, it's kind of hard to rank these because they don't have a lot of storyline. She'll go over here. You can go over here as well. I think they're all going to kind of just be on top of each other. Like, there's various Inquisitors throughout Rebels. They had a lot of them, obviously. Other Imperial characters that I don't know. I don't think I could really rank them that high. I'm probably going to just throw them down here. quite a few different characters that had different storylines. Then we have Ryder, and actually he had I believe an episode in Ahsoka as well, which was interesting. I'll probably give him top of C. I think he's a bit better than some of these other characters. And everyone else here, yeah, I'll probably just put in here. There's some characters in this ranking I don't necessarily want to talk too much about just because I don't have really much to say about them. Just realized Jabba the Hutt and IG-88 are down here, and I don't really think they... I feel like they would fit better in the original trilogy, but I'm going to put Jabba the Hutt B tier. I don't care too much for him, but he can have his moments. And then IG-88 is a bit cooler than some of the other bounty hunters, so I'm going to put probably next to Bosk. I think he goes nicely with Bosk there. But Jabba the Hutt, I enjoyed what they did with him. A couple of the episodes. I guess he was in a couple of movies even. But definitely a nasty character that's just gross to look at. But you know, he has his moments. Next up, we got the Rogue One characters, which should be real exciting because I actually liked a lot of these characters quite a bit. Starting with Jyn Erso, I'm gonna put her in A tier for sure. Where in A tier though is the question. Maybe right below Savage Press. Sounds good. Maybe, yeah. I think that looks good. I think she's underrated. I know a lot of people probably don't have as much of an interest in her character as I do, but I feel like she was pretty cool. Then we have K2SO, which they gave him some really cool scenes in Andor season 2. Probably gonna put maybe even above Jyn Erso. Yeah, probably right there. Just the level of humor coming out of this dude. I mean, come on. Definitely one of the coolest droids in the entire series. And I don't see Andor down here, surprisingly. I guess they had him included with his own series, but to be honest, he first appeared in Andor, so I'm actually going to rank him now. He's going an S. I mean, without the series, Andor would probably not be an S, but with the series, fuck yeah, he's going S. I would say even, should I put him above Han Solo? No, I don't think I'm going to put him above Han Solo, but he's high up there. This is like top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He's top 10. Is he going to be top 10 of all time? We'll wait and see till we get to that point, but I mean, he's definitely deserving of being in the S tier for sure after that series. They gave him so much depth, so many interesting storylines, especially with Bix. I enjoyed what they did with him in Rogue One. He's just going on this mission, but the context added with Bix, the fact that he wanted to see her again, but he also knew that she wanted him to complete this mission, and because she felt like that was his purpose, and of course it led to his death, but it also led to the rebels being able to beat the Empire. So big sacrifice, but that was so well written. And yeah, that's why he's going in S. Like I said, if it was just Rogue One, probably would be A tier, maybe even B tier, but with Rogue One, definitely S. I'm honestly terrible at pronouncing some of these characters' names. I believe this is Baze, I want to say is his name. They don't really say it too much in the movie. I don't think he's nearly as interesting as some of the other ones, but I do like watching him in the film. He is really has a lot of great action scenes, especially in the third act, but I would say he's probably one of the least interesting out of all of them. I'm actually going to put him in C tier. And then of course you have Donnie Yen's character. I love the moments he has where he's just, especially when he's like, you know, talking about the Force being with him and he's like walking through and just bullets or blaster shots flying everywhere, and he's just kind of like dodging and all. Eventually he gets killed, of course. I mean, the whole team does, but he's really cool. Who else do we have here? Bodhi, I believe was his name. Yeah, probably right next to Donnie Yen's character. That looks good, I would say. And then Krennic, man, another character fleshed out more in Andor that I want to say top of A tier. Top A tier looks good. Yeah, he's fantastic in Andor season 2, but he's also fantastic in Rogue One. He feels like a very different character because he's in a very different position. Obviously, he's in a very powerful position in Rogue One, so he's a lot more threatening and menacing. But in Rogue One, in Andor, he's a lot more powerful. But in Rogue One, he's speaking to characters like Darth Vader. So by comparison, he is not nearly as powerful. He doesn't have that much of a terrifying presence. He almost looks pathetic more than anything. So I really like how they have that contrast between his two different appearances. But fantastic, man. He did such a good job with this character. So definitely deserves A tier. Saw Gerrera, a character that has been given a lot at this point. He was in the Clone Wars, he was in Rebels. What else was he in? I mean, obviously he was in Rogue One, he was in Andor, but in terms of animation, I think he was in at least one other project. Was he in Bad Batch? No, I feel like he definitely was. I don't know. Regardless, he's cool. I really love it. Just such a crazy character, but he is a lot of fun to watch. And so I'm gonna give him, I'm gonna say like high B. High B looks good. He's a very interesting character though, because he's like, I would say one of the most like the rebels kind of treat him like, wow, like dude, you're crazy, but he does things, he gets things done, you know, he does, but he's just he's just kind of a loose cannon character, but that's what makes him so much fun. Next up, we have Dryden Voss, played by the wonderful Paul Bettany. I thought he was a decent character. I'm gonna put him like honestly right next to Saw Gerrera, maybe. I feel like Solo, it was a good film, but it just didn't, I don't know, it didn't grab me as much as a lot of the other Star Wars movies did. The story didn't really like, I like a good character will make me want more out of the character. I feel like this is a character I don't really need to see more of. So for that, I mean, yeah, he's not going to get that highly rated. Kira, played by Emilia Clarke. I actually like her, and maybe would be a character I would like to see more often. I'm going to put her probably right next to Paul Bettany's character. Yeah, I think that looks good. And as for the droid in that film, I honestly don't remember the droid's name. Kind of didn't like this character. I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't a fan. I'm gonna put, I don't know about F, but D tier, sure. Wasn't a fan. And then this character, very unmemorable. I don't remember their name, but yeah, D tier. Tobias Beckett, played by the wonderful Woody Harrelson. Woody Harrelson alone is gonna put him in B tier, but I mean, I wouldn't say the character himself was that interesting. It was more so just Woody Harrelson's just amazing performance as always. I mean, he's just a great actor, so it's understandable. Now we're on to the sequel trilogy. Now, this obviously we're not going in chronological order. We haven't been going in chronological order, kind of in release order in a sense. We'll be getting to some of the other projects later, of course. But I mean, I absolutely love some of the characters here. I just thought it was so messy overall. As a trilogy, it was very just all over the place, and that I can agree with. But individually speaking, there are quite a few characters that I genuinely do really love, and that might be a hot take, I don't know. But starting off with one that I know is going to be a hot take. I know people are going to call me crazy for this. I know people are going to dislike the video for this, and that's Rey. Rey is a character that has gotten quite a lot of hate over the past couple, ever since The Force Awakens came out. Actually, it felt like more since The Last Jedi, but I mean, she had some hate in The Force Awakens. And I think a big part of it was because obviously the movies were heavily hinting towards and teasing that Finn was going to become a Jedi. That was a big part of it. And as much as I would have loved to have seen that, I think that's the reason people didn't like Rey, is because they were like, why is she all of a sudden being the one who decides, is going to have this role as a Jedi? She ends up being the main character, although Finn was the one who was kind of teased as being the main character. And so I think that kind of just rubbed people the wrong way. They got annoyed by that, and I understand it, right? I do. But at the same time, does that make the character in and of herself bad? I don't think so. I know some people think that she got her powers too easily. Like, how is she, able to use the Force so effectively? And I feel like the movies do explain it. They don't give a great explanation. Don't get me wrong. It's not like the best explanation ever, but there is an explanation there. She's not just powerful for the sake of it. And I really love Daisy Ridley in the role. So I'm going to give Rey a pretty high ranking here. And now I'm not going to go as far as to say S tier, but I might put her in A tier. I'm trying to think of where exactly though. Maybe right next to, I'll put her above Sabine, below Krennic, above Sabine. That looks good. I think she deserves it. I know people, like I said, are gonna be like, bro, what are you talking about? What are you doing? Sorry, I liked her. I think, you know what? Fuck it. I fucking dude. Like, I'm like, internally, I'm like, put her in S. And then I'm like thinking maybe I shouldn't, but fuck it, dude. I really did enjoy her character. Like I said, the only thing holding her back, yes, I think The Rise of Skywalker didn't really handle things that well, but I do think she's really good in The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. Even though The Last Jedi, I don't love that movie, I think she's great in it. She's one of the best parts of that film. So yeah, y'all gonna have to deal with that. I'm sorry, you're gonna have to deal with it. And then Finn is a character I would have loved to have seen be a Jedi. I think that would have been really, really cool. I was okay with them not doing that. I still liked his story. I still liked him being the stormtrooper who, takes off the mask and eventually joins the Resistance. I think that was a good story. I'm going to put him in A tier, probably right below Padme, below Qui-Gon. Yeah, below Qui-Gon looks good. He was great. I love John Boyega as that character. Like I said, I think they should have made him a Jedi. And who knows? There's still a chance to do that. I don't know if you guys have heard, but they're bringing back Rey in a future Star Wars project. She's coming back. I don't know if it's like 100% happening because there's been a lot of canceled Star Wars movies, but it's supposed to be like Rey's like new Jedi Order or something, and I don't know what they're gonna do with that, but it seems to be they're having a film for that. They could bring back Finn, have him be a Jedi now, because at the end of the Rise of Skywalker, he was like starting to feel the Force or something. He started to have those feelings, so you could let him be a Jedi. You know, you don't have to, because like there are some Force users who aren't Jedi. That's a thing. But could he become one? Could that be a really cool part of that movie? Yeah, I mean, I would be down to see it for sure. I don't know what storyline they would go with in that film, but I would be down to see it. And I think he definitely deserves more storylines for sure. So yeah, that looks good. Poe Dameron, I like him. I do. I think he's much better in, honestly, the Rise of Skywalker. They probably gave him the most, but I don't know. It's kind of tough. Should I put him in S? Not S. What am I talking about? A or B though? Maybe like bottom of A, I think is a good place for him. You know, he's not quite on that higher A tier range, but as you know, yeah, that looks good. I like that trio, that main trio. They're not as good as, you know, obviously Luke, Han, and Leia. They're the OG trio. Even Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme are better as a trio, but I still think Poe, Finn, and Rey make for a pretty damn good trio. And then you have Kylo Ren. Oh boy, okay. Yeah, he's going S tier. Like, this isn't even a conversation. I'm sorry. He's going S tier. I would say above. Yeah, I'm gonna put him above Yoda. I mean, look, out of any positive thing you can talk about in regards to the sequel trilogy, it's Kylo Ren. He is such a great character. He is, of course, Han Solo and Leia's son, and he turned to the dark side. And they didn't show a lot of that. Obviously, they talk about it in The Last Jedi, why he got to that point. But I do like how they kind of made his storyline quite complex in The Last Jedi. It's one of my favorite parts of that movie. Again, I don't love a lot of that movie, but everything with Rey and Kylo was actually really good, especially them starting to turn the character into a more complex character in terms of, like, he goes against Snoke halfway through the movie, but he still can't come to terms or an agreement with Rey because they have very different philosophies on life and the Force and what they're going to do with that. And, you know, he's like, join me. And she's like, well, I can't do that after everything you've done. I love him in The Force Awakens. I like the fact that, you know, of course, he kills his own father. I think that's a really interesting storyline for his character. I think it's a terrible thing, but it makes for one of the most emotional moments of the entire series. And, you know, Adam Driver did an amazing job. Wasn't an actor that I knew that well before that film came out, but once The Force Awakens came out, I was all on board with Adam Driver, and I really loved him in pretty much everything I've seen him in since. So yeah, he's definitely a top 10 Star Wars character of all time, and I'm not sorry whatsoever for putting him in the top 10, even though, you know, the sequels, they're messy, but they have some good characters. You know, those four characters are the main ones that I really do enjoy. Captain Phasma, oof, you know, I feel like Phasma could have had so much more to her. Unfortunately, they didn't do a lot. I love using her in Star Wars Battlefront 2, but like, that's about it. I don't know. In terms of the movies, she's not that great. I'm gonna put her maybe C tier, right around here. They kind of wanted to turn her into like the next Boba Fett or something. I don't really know. They were trying something, and I just don't think it worked that well. So C tier seems okay with me. Hux, oh god, that was his name, right? Hux. It's our first F tier. It's our first F tier. God damn. I know I'm talking about these sequel characters being so good, but this is probably one of the stupidest characters in Star Wars history. It just, the whole like spy element. What are we doing? He's like, I'm the spy. Like, the fuck are you talking about? Like, what is that storyline? It was so ridiculous, and it was made for like a slapsticky joke. The character meant nothing. I just hate this character. I genuinely think the actor is innocent in that. The actor is great. I just hate this character. What were they doing with that? Snoke is probably the most disappointing character in the series. I was hoping he was going to be this really powerful presence. He ended up just being this loser that got killed by Kylo in episode 8. So Snoke, for how disappointing he is, probably going to put him in C tier. Andy Serkis did a great job, I think he did the motion capture for this character in the voice. But I mean, they could have done so much more with Snoke, man. They really could have done so much more, especially story wise. But I'm gonna put him in C tier. He definitely doesn't belong like that low. He still is a cool character, cool presence, and I was definitely excited to see that character. but just kind of pissed me off that they didn't really do a lot with him. Next we have Holdo, and actually I think Hondo, that like character over here from the Clone Wars, I think I accidentally called him Holdo. They're very similar names. Holdo is another character that unfortunately I'm gonna give a low rating to. Not as bad as Hux. I didn't like her at all. I felt like her character was very oddly written. She was written as obviously part of the Resistance, but weird storyline. It was one of my least favorite parts of The Last Jedi, where she just wasn't telling anything about her plan to Poe, and it kind of created this. Actually, oh fuck, you know what? I actually can't give her that low. You know what? I just realized she has one of the most iconic scenes with the whole Holdo maneuver thing, where she like takes the ship and goes into light speed through the other ship. You can't give her F tier for that. You can't. But the character still kind of sucks. It's really just that moment that's so cool. Like that moment is what's like, oh my god. But it's the character sucks though. You could have given that to any other character. You could have given it to literally anyone else, and I would have liked it a lot more. I'm just sorry, I just have to put her there. I really did not like her character. I just think it felt like a really forced way to get conflict between the characters in the Resistance, specifically with Poe, and it just felt unnecessary. Like I was like, what are we doing? What are we watching here? Definitely one of my least favorite parts of that movie. A BB-8, cute little, you know, soccer ball droid thing. Probably gonna put him next to Chopper. Kind of, I don't know. The droids are hard to rank because, like I said, they're not really much of a character. They're just kind of there as little cute things that are going to be sold for merchandise. Next up we have DJ, another part of The Last Jedi that I really didn't like, didn't even care for. Benicio del Toro, great actor, did not care for the character. I'm sorry, I just didn't. Very boring part of that movie. This guy, I mean, I think it was Pride or something like that, right? Another First Order general that genuinely was just not that interesting. D tier. It's the main characters of the sequel trilogy were really good. I feel like a lot of the side ones were just bad. What was her name? Like, I think it was like Janna or something. She had this random role in The Rise of Skywalker with like zero buildup or anything. She just kind of was thrown in there. So I can't really give her that high of a rating, but I don't think she was bad. I'll put her in C tier. Don't really think she's going to be much higher. Zora is kind of the same way, where she was kind of just thrown in there as a new character, but I just didn't care too much. Rose, I know people hate her, and I don't like. The actress is genuinely great. I just think the character was, I don't know, just didn't work well with the story. Like, especially that moment where she like saves Finn, but in doing so probably causes the death of a lot of other people, because like he was doing something that was gonna lead to a lot of people being saved. But I don't know, just thought that was kind of a cringe moment to be honest. So Rose, I can't give her that high of a rating. I'm not gonna put her in F, but D maybe. Yeah, I'll put her in D, right next to Holdo, or Holdo. And then Maz, thought this was gonna be the Yoda of the sequel trilogy, but that was not the case. I'll put her in C tier. So there's only one character from Star Wars Resistance included here, and that is Kaz, and I do not give a shit about Kaz. I'm sorry. I watched Resistance. I just couldn't care. He was not interesting whatsoever. He didn't have much depth to him. I really wish, honestly, the thing about Resistance that kind of pisses me off is because, you know, the Clone Wars was a great show that represented the prequel era quite well, and it had some mature moments, a lot of, you know, serious storylines. Rebels did a great job of bridging that gap between episode 3 and 4, building upon a lot of the storylines with, you know, how the Rebels became. They didn't focus on that exactly. I think Andor did that more, but Rebels still did a good job with other things related to it. And Resistance should have been a great show that shows the start of the Resistance, and there's elements of that in there, but they treat it like such a childish show. The animation's pretty rough. It's just not good to look at all, and it doesn't help that the main character is uninteresting. So overall, definitely a disappointing show and a pretty boring show. I don't have much to say about Kaz. Moving on to The Bad Batch, which is a much better show. It's pretty consistent, I would say. It's not like one of my favorite shows necessarily, but it's a pretty consistently solid show. And let's start with Omega. Omega, bottom of A. I think she's probably one of my favorite characters from The Bad Batch. You know, we're not going to go talk about these characters too much, but I do think she was pretty cool. I like that little like flash forward sequence they did at the very end of season 3, and I would honestly love to see her return someday. I definitely think I could see that happening. Then getting into the actual Bad Batch themselves, we have Crosshair. Crosshair probably had one of the most interesting arcs out of any of the characters, to be honest. So he's gonna go bottom of A, I would say. I think his relation with Omega, they have a really cool dynamic that I really enjoy watching. Hunter is probably the most badass of the group, but I don't know if his character is as interesting as some of the others, so I'm gonna put him in B tier. But still, I mean, a lot of these characters are gonna get ranked pretty high. Tech had probably one of the coolest death scenes, just because it was so like a really emotional moments. Really, obviously it was basically a sacrifice. But I'm not gonna put him above Crosshair personally. Echo probably better than. Yeah, actually, I think Echo's better than all of them, to be honest. Even above Zeb. I'm gonna put Poe below them actually. And then Wrecker, unfortunately, I think is my least favorite. He's kind of the heart of the group, I would say, in some ways, but and he's also the muscle of the group, but I don't think he's as interesting as the other ones. So B tier is definitely good. And then some other Bad Batch characters that honestly I don't care to sit here and talk about, so we're just gonna kind of jump through them as fast as possible. Probably gonna go in D tier for the most part. Yeah, let's just toss them all in there. I don't think there's really much worth of us sitting here trying to find things to talk about with these characters, because trust me, there's not going to be much. Yes, even Royce and Rio, I mean, actually, they're probably a little bit better. I'd put them bottom of C, the both of them. Yeah, I'm going to put, D tier probably sounds good. They also have the Tales of the Jedi characters here. Obviously, Barriss was a very big part of the Clone Wars. I'm not sure why they have her down here. I guess, like I said, probably because of it was Tales of the Empire was the series, right? It wasn't Tales of the Jedi. So you have Barriss, who I'm actually going to put her in A. I actually really like Barriss. She's probably one of the cooler characters of the Clone Wars. Probably right above fives. That looks good. And then Lynn Rakish, not as interesting. I would say probably bottom of B. Looks good to me. Bottom of, next to Phasma. Now we are finally getting to The Mandalorian, which has quite a lot of characters that they've introduced to the Star Wars franchise. Some of these characters have been in other projects though, of course. But Din Djarin himself, The Mandalorian, I mean, come on. This is going to be easy S tier for me. But how high the S tier? Honestly, above Rex, but not above Andor. Actually, I don't know. Do I want to put him even above Andor? Sorry, Cassian. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm putting him above that. I really like characters like him who's, he's a very kind of emotionless character at first. He's just kind of doing his thing. He's just doing his job. He's kind of grown up in this Mandalorian system, a very different version of it, I guess, but it's very cultish in the fact that he can't take off his helmet, he can't show himself to anybody, and he lives by that quite closely. The one time he's actually able to break that though is when he's letting Grogu go. He wants Grogu to see his face. So stuff like that is really cool. Obviously he did it a couple other times in the series for other reasons as well, but every moment that happens he breaks his code is such a character defining moment. So he's really cool and easily one of my favorite Star Wars characters that they've introduced in the past, 6 years ago. So within the past, ever since the TV show started, the live action shows started, he's been one of my favorites, and I really hope they do him justice in The Mandalorian Grogu. Obviously Pedro Pascal does a great job as the character. You don't really think of Pedro Pascal that much when you're thinking of this character though, because he's not showing his face that often. I sometimes forget Pedro Pascal even played The Mandalorian, but I hope they do a lot with him that's good in that movie, because I didn't like him that much in Mando season 3. I felt like his character was severely less interesting than the first 2 seasons. So I'm really, really hopeful for that movie, but skeptically hopeful, I guess is the best way to put it. And we got Bo-Katan. I'm always so bad with pronunciations. She's awesome. She's great. I might actually say S tier for her. Top of A. No, yeah, top of A. I'll say top of A. I really like her in the Clone Wars, and of course in I guess she's also in parts of Rebels, but she is really, really great in the Mandalorian series, and hope to see a lot more of her. I don't think she needs her own spinoff though. I feel like every time there's a really cool character, they're like, oh, we need to make a spinoff. No, get the hell out of here. You don't need spinoffs. But what she does need is more story in the Mandalorian stuff. So hopefully she's in Mandalorian Grogu. I'm assuming she will be. I would love to see a big event between Thrawn, or was it the Heir of the Empire storyline, I think is what they're planning to do eventually. And you would obviously need to have Ahsoka, Mando, and Bo-Katan all on screen together. I would love that. I mean, fucking bring Boba Fett in there while you can. Why not? Like, so much stuff they can do with those characters that I think would be really, really awesome. And it seems like they're building towards that, so I'm definitely looking forward to that. Grogu. Oh, okay. So I feel like Grogu. I like Grogu because I like Din and I like that element, but Grogu is also so adorable, dude. Like, come on. But it's kind of the same as like some of the droid characters where it's like he doesn't talk just yet, so it's hard to judge him from a character standpoint. But I'm gonna still put him in A tier, right next to C3PO. He's just adorable. Like, come on. But he's also made me cry. Like that end of season 2 scene made me cry. So yeah, come on. He deserves some credit there. Next up, we have Grief Karga, played by the wonderful Carl Weathers, who unfortunately passed away. And he was amazing in this show, especially in season 1. They gave him a lot. I'm going to put him bottom 8 tier. Yeah, I think Mandalorian, they introduced a lot of good characters, so you definitely deserving of that. The Armorer, not a character I find that interesting, but C tier seems okay with me, I would say. If I'm not mistaken, isn't this Paz Vizsla, or am I completely wrong about that? I might be wrong, but yeah, right next to the Armor, looks good to me. Cara Dune, obviously we aren't ever seeing her again in Star Wars. I wouldn't think so, right? After that whole controversy that happened. I liked her character though. I thought she was fun to watch. Well, she was only in season 1 and a very tiny amount of season 2, right? She was in like 1 episode, right? I think, right? No, 2 episodes. They brought her in towards the end as well. I liked her though. I'm not going to put her that high. I'd probably say bottom of right here. I liked her, but I don't know. There's not much to say about her character. She was just kind of there as muscle, really. It's got the whole character. So yeah, I always love seeing this dude. He always just kind of shows up and he's always fun to watch, but I don't think he's like, you know, he's not one of those characters I'm going to say is like great or anything. So I'm going to put him around here. That looks good. We got Cobb Vanth. I actually like his storyline, and I do think we should have seen more of him. That he was really only like a big part of that 1 episode. I guess they also had him for a little bit other parts of the show as well. But he was really cool and honestly kind of an underrated presence in the Mandalorian series. So I'm gonna say probably right next to Cara Dune. Looks good. Then we have Moff Gideon. Giancarlo Esposito did a fantastic job with this character. Such a great villain. And I do think bringing him back in season 3 wasn't, I don't know. I was like, I liked him, what they did with him at the end there, but it was a little odd. I liked him as the villain in the first 2 seasons, though. I thought he was a really great villain. So I'm going to say A tier, right around, right below Satine, probably. Yeah, that looks good. No, below Qui-Gon. What am I doing? Not that high. And a couple other characters I don't care as much about. Like I said, it's some characters you just how you gonna rank if you don't really think about them that much, you know. She's fun to watch. I'll put her in C just because she's kind of funny, but that's about it. This guy, oh man, what was his name? What was it? Coil? I honestly don't remember how to pronounce that. But this dude, I have spoken, like, so iconic. Like the fact that became so iconic is saying something. He was really cool, and I was really sad to see him die in season 1. But how high do I actually want to put him? Probably below General Grievous. Let's put him right there, below General Grievous. He's a great character. Not necessarily one that I have much to say about though. I liked him. And then Migs, this was Bill Burr's character from I guess he was in season 1. It was also in season 2, but his episode in season 2 is one of the best moments of that series. And for that, I'm going to put him really damn high. I really liked his character. I really liked what they did with him. I'm going to say probably below. Let's put him below Grogu. It's a weird spot for him, but fuck it. That works. Underrated character. I'd like to see him return. Then we have Dr. Pershing. He was okay. They gave that 1 episode in season 3 where he was like one of the main focuses of it. And I get why they did that, but wasn't my favorite episode of the show. So, I mean, I'm going to put him in C. Boba Fett, here we go. Here's Boba Fett. They're just including him with like the characters of his own show, of course. Boba Fett, they gave him a lot more to do in those later, in that series. My issue is giving him his own series, I think was kind of a waste because he's not a great leading character. He's a great side character, right? He's definitely exciting to watch, but I just don't care about him having his own series though. I thought that was weird, but he still definitely deserves A tier. Probably going to put him right here at the bottom. I don't know. Obviously, I want to see more of him. I don't want to see more of him in his own show, though. I don't think they should do a Book of Boba Fett season 2. But if they bring him back in either Mandalorian season 4 or maybe in the Mandalorian Grogu movie or whatever they're doing with, you know, Ahsoka, Bo-Katan and stuff in the future with Thrawn, I would love to see him come back for that. That would be really cool. But on his own, he's fine. He's cool. Fennec, I feel like, has her moments. She felt kind of robotic at certain points, to be honest. But she's in the animated shows as well sometimes, so she's pretty cool in those. I'm gonna give her a B tier, probably right below Saw Gerrera. No, maybe lower than that. Below Lando, I would say. It's a good spot for her. And then this is one of the Wookiees in this series. I didn't really care for the Wookiee, to be honest. I just didn't care for it. And then we have some of the Obi-Wan characters. There wasn't a lot of them, but from the ones that were there, I didn't like Reva that much. I didn't hate the character. Some people were like just awful about it, like the way they were treating the actress especially. I personally just didn't care for the character that much, though. I just wasn't that interested in her character. I wasn't interested in her story that much. She did a really cool duel against Darth Vader, though. I'll give her that. But whenever they kept cutting to her storyline, especially in the final episode, I was like, I feel like this series just needs to be more focused on Obi-Wan. But I'm not going to give her like F tier or anything like that. I'm probably just going to put her bottom of C or maybe top of D. I'm going to say bottom of C. Feel like she could have had much more to her that could have been a lot more interesting, but yeah, not the best character. And then some of the other characters in that series also just weren't that interesting. Like Obi-Wan as a series, that's the biggest fault of it, was just having uninteresting side characters. And so yeah, if they had should have more focus on Obi-Wan, and I probably would have liked it more, but that's that. Now we are finally at Andor. We have seasons 1 and 2 characters. Most of the main characters here, I'm sure there's some other ones. We've already, of course, talked about Cassian. We ranked him very, very high. But I honestly think some of these characters here are also going to be ranked quite high. Speaking of characters that are going to be ranked quite high, Luthen. Yeah, I mean, Luthen is easily one of the best characters in Star Wars history. I'm going to put him... Ooh, I don't know how high, though. Should I go A tier? I'm going to go A tier. I don't know where in A tier, though. Maybe above Count Dooku? Yeah, above Count Dooku. That's still really high, though. That is, I would say, a pretty solid placement for him. He's fantastic. Stellan Skarsgård is so good in the role. I love how he's, you know, a very different kind of rebel leader, where he's he's more willing to allow people to die for the rebel cause. A lot of other rebel leaders are not willing to do that. He's obviously not like, he's not working with the rebels in the same way that like characters like Mon Mothma are. Obviously he has a different, you know, method of doing it, but he still gets stuff done, and he plays a big role in eventually getting the Death Star plans, which happens in Rogue One. Of course he wasn't there for that, but I really love what they did with this character, especially in season 2. I mean, he was obviously great in season 1 as well, but he's fantastic. Definitely deserves it. Mon Mothma is also gonna get S tier, which is crazy, because if you asked me how I feel at Mon Mothma before Andor, I would have said maybe B tier at most, maybe even C tier. I would have been like, yeah, she's just a senator character or whatever. But damn, man, they gave her a lot of development and depth in Andor, which is why I really enjoy that series, because you're taking characters that originally didn't have a lot of depth and you're just building upon them and giving them so much depth so they can now be one of the best characters in the Star Wars franchise. That is what a Star Wars series should do if it's going to be bringing other characters. And, you know, going back to Ahsoka, obviously I said a couple of the characters have gotten more development there, like Sabine, but I think they definitely deserve a lot more depth. And I think Andor did a great job with the amount of depth they gave to a lot of those characters. Bix is obviously a new character for Andor, but holy shit, I love this character, man. Didn't think she was that great in season 1. I mean, she was good in season 1, but season 2, she blew me away. She really did. So I don't think I'm going to go S tier with her, though. But I'm definitely going to go high A, probably top of A, dude. Especially what they decided to do with her towards the end of the season, where she decided to leave Cassian because she knew Cassian was just not going to continue with the rebel cause if she stayed around. She didn't want to give him a reason to quit what he was doing, but she really believed that he was going to play a big role in the rebellion. And of course he did. And she ended up having his baby, which was just so emotional. Like, damn, man, that was such a sad ending, but it was so beautifully done, and it really parallels nicely with the end of Rogue One. So I kind of even want to give her S tier. I might just, fuck it, let's do it. Why not? Why the hell not, man? We might as well. I think she deserves it. Kino, oh shit, dude. I'm gonna give him A tier for sure. I mean, we didn't see a lot of him. He was pretty present in those prison episodes. I mean, Andy Serkis was fucking amazing. That scene in One Way Out, the speech scene, probably is one of my favorite Star Wars scenes of all time. So I think I'm gonna put him above Krennic, but below Bo-Katan. A tier sounds good for him. He's close to S, trust me, but I can't, it's so hard to do that when it's a character that you don't, he wasn't in that much of the series. And then Cyril, oh shit, man. This is one that I also kind of want to put in S tier. Yeah, we're doing it. We're doing it, man. We're putting him in S tier. He's so good. Dude, Andor brought so many great characters to the Star Wars franchise, and his ending was fantastic. He's so interesting because he's so focused on just looking good for the Empire, but he doesn't care about like the other, like, the higher goals and purposes of the Empire. That's not really his concern. He's just very much concerned with the smaller things, and mainly in season 1 it was finding Andor, and then eventually he's literally just brown nosing the Empire basically, and it ends very badly for him. Of course, he realizes in that moment that he's like, well, what am I a part of here? Like, there's a whole massacre going on, and he's just watching it happen. And then he just decides, okay, I see Cassian, I'm gonna go kill him. And does not end well for him. But geez, man, it was such a good storyline, such a good character. And we have Dedra. She's also fantastic. I want to say bottom of S tier, maybe above Bix. She's also fantastic. Very different type of character than Cyril, but definitely deserves S for sure. Then there's Vel. I would say Vel is pretty good. I don't think she's necessarily S tier, but I would definitely put her in A tier. I'm gonna put her, I would say above Grogu. No, below Grogu. Grogu's too cute, man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Next we have Cinta. She had a couple of interesting moments. Obviously, a big part of her story was her relationship with Vel, but I'm not going to put her that high personally. I don't think she's necessarily one of the more interesting characters in the series. Top of C tier sounds good to me. Maybe a little bit lower, actually. Yeah, no, that's fine. Brasso, I liked quite a bit. I kind of wish we saw more of him. I'll put him in B tier. I think he definitely deserved more screen time, but then again, I also think his ending was quite fitting for the character. I'm not saying they should have kept him alive, but I definitely would have liked to have seen more of him. Marva, obviously Andor's mother, she's great. She had some really solid moments in season 1. I'm gonna put her right below Lando. Seems like a good spot. The little fucking droid, I don't know, man. Droids are so hard to rank. They're like dragons from Game of Thrones. It's like, how the hell am I supposed to rank this thing? I'm sorry, I don't. BMO is what they called it, I think. Lonnie was such an important part of the rebellion when you really think about it. It's kind of crazy that that's the case. Retroactively, it's a really interesting thing. But character-wise, I don't think I necessarily love this character, but I do think that is still a pretty cool aspect of him. So I'll put him in B tier just for that alone, but I don't think I could put him much higher than that. Rylance, I really like the Gorman storyline. It's actually probably the best part of Andor season 2, probably the best part of Andor in general. So he's a pretty big part of that. I'm definitely going to give him a pretty high rating for that. Jar Jar Binks being here is kind of weird. I'm going to put him a little bit lower. Maybe I shouldn't put him that high, but okay, that's fine. And then there's Wilmon. Wilmon was probably, I'll probably put him kind of close to Rylance, maybe top of B. Sounds good. And then we have Clea. That final arc in Andor season 2 is enough to put her in A tier for me. I'm gonna put her above Omega. She definitely deserves that. And there's a couple of Andor characters that are missing on this tier list, but it's okay. We don't have to, rank literally every character. But obviously there's, what other characters are they missing? They're definitely missing a few. They're missing Edie. Oh, I forgot about Edie. Yeah, they're missing her. I mean, like I said, it's okay if we don't have every single character on this tier list, because we would be here for 5 years probably. I don't know. This be a lot of characters. But next up we have the Ahsoka characters. Obviously the new Ahsoka characters, because very clearly we already talked about a lot of the other characters. A lot of the other characters were from Clone Wars or Rebels. We have Hu Yang, another droid, but he has a voice, so he's a little bit more personality to him. So I'll still put him in C tier though, but maybe a little bit higher than some of these characters like over here. The very individual rankings is not like the end of the world, because they're very close to each other, I would say. Baylan Skull, Excited to see more of him. Unfortunately, of course, the actor Ray Stevenson did pass away, but the character is really solid in Ahsoka, and I really like the duels with him. But character-wise, I definitely think there is more they could add to him in the future, so definitely room to grow as a character. But see, I would put him in B tier probably for now, right above Saw Gerrera, maybe? No, I'll put him above Willman. Put him top of B. Shin Hati, I think I liked a little bit more though. I actually really liked her, and I'm really excited for her as well. Probably A tier, maybe right above Poe. That looks good. Morgan Elsbeth is such a like industry plant character, I feel like. No, she's okay. I like her in some moments. I just never really fully on board. Never got on board with this character like fully. I'm gonna put her bottom of C. I really want to get more on board with her, but for now, I'm just not that crazy about her. No, you have, what was it, Marok? Kind of a disappointing character. Was hoping this character was going to be a lot cooler, and kind of ended up, having a really cool duel, but there really wasn't much about the character. So bottom of C as well, unfortunately. I didn't even know this was a character. It's just a clone trooper with the cool mask. I don't know. Okay, whatever. We'll just put them there. And now we have the Acolyte characters, and this is kind of evil because they have two. Why would they use the fucking same haircut from the two of them? They're the same actress, so it's pretty hard to tell who's who. I'm pretty sure. Okay, there's Osha and May, and I think I liked Osha more, but I think this is May, this is Osha, right? I didn't love these characters. I'm gonna put them bottom of C tier, I guess. I didn't hate them. I just didn't really love them too much. But I put them next to each other. I think that makes sense. Soul was actually probably my favorite character in this series. And so for that, I'm gonna put him in B tier. Not that high, but definitely B tier. Maybe above Lando? Seems like a good spot. I also quite liked Kamir. I thought he was fucking awesome with that lightsaber, dude. Like, the lightsaber dueling in this show was actually really good. That was like the only aspect of the show that was actually like phenomenal. Everything else was just kind of whatever. I'll put Kamir above Jabba the Hutt. How about that? I'll be honest, I don't remember a lot of these character names. Don't really remember her name. She was quite unmemorable. I'm gonna put her in D tier. Yord, cool lightsaber dueling, kind of a memorable, but I'll put him in C tier. Jecki, oh, okay, I like Daphne Keene in this quite a bit. I think Jecki was my favorite by far. Her death was fucking insane, dude. That was such an insane scene. I'll put her like above Jar Jar Binks in B tier though. And then, oh, okay, now I think this was my least favorite part of the Acolyte. It was the story with these characters. Where the hell's Indara, by the way? They're forgetting a lot of characters for this tier list, but Indara would probably be like C tier maybe. But the storyline with May's parents, so May and Osha's parents, I thought was one of the weakest parts of the Acolyte. Like, I genuinely just disliked that aspect of it. It's just really, really messy. I'm not gonna give these characters that low of a ranking, but I feel like they deserve to go pretty low. I feel bad for Hux, man. He's the only character in fucking F tier. I just feel so bad putting him that low. Maybe he doesn't deserve F tier. You know what? I feel so bad putting him there. I'll put him in D tier. I don't think anybody deserves F tier, okay? You know what? That's fine. I feel bad. And then we have these Star Wars Skeleton Crew characters. I actually haven't even finished the Skeleton Crew series. I watched the first 3 episodes and then I stopped watching it. I'm sure it got better. I thought it was okay. I was enjoying it. Each of these characters, though, I'm probably just going to put in C tier. I don't really have much to say about them, but I should go finish that series. I hope that these characters get a lot more development throughout it, and that could be pretty cool. But I don't really think I'm in a position to judge these characters too properly. I'm just basing it off of those 3 episodes. C tier seems about good for that. Okay, so that is the full ranking. The rest of the characters here are just video game characters that like I said, have not played these video games yet, so I cannot really judge them. The day I do get to play those video games, I will maybe, redo this in the future and we can judge those then. But here's the tier list. It's pretty hefty. Starting off with the bottom, D tier. Obviously, a lot of these characters are just characters that I either find uninteresting or I find something actually annoying about them, like they actually take me out of whatever project they're in. C tier characters are kind of, some of them are like that where I don't love some aspects of them, but most of them are just characters that I just felt like were either underwhelming or just didn't have enough to bring to the table, but they still had sometimes a good couple different storylines to show for. B tier are some solid characters. They're good characters. I enjoy them. Not quite enough to go much higher though. A tier are like the phenomenal characters. They're really, really good, really, really interesting, really well written, but they just don't quite hit the same level as the S tier characters, which are by far the best characters in Star Wars history for me personally. Darth Vader, Ahsoka, Darth Maul, Luke Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Kylo Ren, Yoda, Han Solo, Din Djarin, Cassian Andor, Rex, Emperor Palpatine, Mon Mothma, Luthen, Cyril, Count Dooku, Leia, Thrawn, Rey, Dedra, and Bix. Definitely the best parts of the Star Wars franchise. And I like how much diversity there is there when it comes to like where they came from. Like there's characters here who came from the Clone Wars, characters who came from Rebels, characters who came from the prequels, the sequels, the original trilogy, the new movies, not the movie movies, the new shows like Andor and stuff. Like there's so many different characters from so many different places, and I think that's pretty cool. It's it's one of the reasons I love this series. I think that they've done a lot. Even though people have made it seem like they haven't done a lot of good things, they really have. And let's back this up even more so you guys can get like a better look at the full thing. Oh my god, no. It's so big you can barely see. Okay, well, hopefully you guys all enjoyed. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Peace out, everyone.